Hello and welcome to the This Works For Me Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Faith Watson. I am the Director of the Faculty Development Center at Murray State University. Are you looking for a strategy that could help you to build relationships and connect with your learners? If you currently teach online or if you're planning to do so in the future and you are looking for tools that could help you to build strong relationships, then you're in the right place because our guest today, Shannon Eastep, will be providing you with some practical strategies to do so. Shannon, thank you very much for taking the time to share with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So Shannon, I'm going to open the floor to you for a moment for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Great. So as you said, my name is Shannon Eastep. I am a faculty member at Northern Kentucky University, and I have a dual role inside the College of Education and Human Services. Part of my role is as instructional designer, and my other part of my role is a lecturer for a technology course inside of teacher education. So my lens is unique in that I get to look at courses both from an instructor standpoint and a designer standpoint.
Wow. So, and really I'm looking forward to this conversation with you. So the title of your strategy is Building Connections and Relationships in Online Environment. Help us understand how you started to use the strategy and what impressed you to do it, and how has it been working for you?
Right. So when I first got to NKU, we were just starting to talk about having courses online. And as I started to feel out faculty and how they felt about this, while there was a push to do this and there was a need, I did feel some hesitation and some resistance from faculty. I could tell that they weren't completely bought into it. And when I started to ask questions about what it was that they were concerned about, this engagement piece did come out. I remember one faculty member telling me that her face-to-face course was taught in part with storytelling, and she was concerned that she would lose part of that, or that the online course wouldn't be as strong as it would have been face-to-face. So I started really thinking about that, and a couple years after that, I had the opportunity to take my own class online. So I thought it was going to be a great opportunity to try out some of these techniques and some of these tools to see if I could take my own, what I would have said was a successful face-to-face class, and could I successfully transition that into an online environment, and what tools really aided in making that transition possible. So I did. I reformatted my own class, which again is a technology class. Some would argue that's difficult to do online. But I wanted, and I felt confident that I could use some of these engagement tools to really draw in the students, and I wanted to give that a try. So several years later, I've been teaching online now for about 6 or 7 years, and I have found that these tools and techniques really do help to engage the user, and it allows me to not lose my personality in the course. So I found it to be successful, and I've been able to share those tools and techniques with colleagues here as well.
I see. So could you share some of those tools with us? Tell us about some of these tools that have really helped you to build relationship and connection in your online course, and a little bit about the impact on the students.
Yes, absolutely. One of the tools that I've used extensively is called Screencast-o-matic. This is a tool that allows me to record my lectures and whatever's on my screen for my students. It adds my voice to it, and I'm able to demonstrate things, explain things, and really allow them to hear my voice inflections as I'm teaching about it. It's not just putting up a PowerPoint. It's not just giving them a website. It's really about how I can teach them through this tool. I also use it to explain assignments to them, to give feedback to them, as well as answer their questions. So if they email me a question, I don't typically type out an answer to them. I will record an answer to them so that they can then see me demonstrate an answer for them.
So before you get onto the other technology, you said it's more than putting up a PowerPoint online. So what would be the difference between that and just doing audio over the PowerPoint?
Good question. So for my class, I am often demonstrating for them different tools or different websites or different ways to accomplish a task. So that I really can't get through via a PowerPoint.
Exactly.
So that would just be text. I need to actually show them something that I want them to understand. So it allows me to do more of a step-by-step walkthrough of something rather than just adding audio to a PowerPoint.
Exactly. So basically, it's able to share anything that's on your screen.
Yes, exactly right. Yes. And I found that also very helpful when I'm demonstrating assignments to them. I'm able to show them past students' work in those, in that recording I'm doing for them. I'm able to show them how to do a technique, much more robust than just PowerPoint bullets.
Exactly. Go on. Thank you for clarifying that.
Another tool that I use a lot is called Flipgrid, and this is a video discussion board that is available online. So a lot of faculty use discussion boards, and they're great, and they get to a skill set where students have to write out and really synthesize and think through text what they want to say. But this tool allows me to connect names with faces. Students can connect names with faces because it is a short video recording of whatever they want to say. I use it in multiple ways in my class. One is a simple introduction where they tell me something about themselves. They, in my class, tell me a technology that they have seen used in the classroom, and then they connect with each other. So because it is an online class, they typically don't see each other. But once they do these video recordings, they recognize each other from other classes. So they have said, hey, I think I had another class with you, or you know what, I think we went to high school together, where they wouldn't have had that connection if it was just a discussion board text message through them. So Flipgrid also has a lot of great built-in features to it that I have found very helpful in the classroom.
Okay. So I know you mentioned the comparison between Flipgrid and the discussion board and the benefits of using Flipgrid over that. But how about in Canvas where instructors can, you know, and allow students to use their webcam? They can use their webcam to share about themselves. So why would one go through the trouble, if some people might call it trouble, but that's a common question instructors usually say, well, Canvas can do some of that. Why use another technology to achieve this goal? What would you say to an instructor?
It's a great question. And the first thing I would say is maybe you don't. Maybe built-in Canvas does work for you, and that's okay. The point of this is to engage your students. And if that's engaging your students and that's working, great. For me, there were several reasons why I chose to use Flipgrid. The first one was a little bit of a niche for me, is that these are future teachers. So I always want to model and show future teachers tools that they can use that are free for them to use and that will engage students in their own classes. Most of the teachers in the K-12 environment don't have access to Canvas. It's not a tool that they use. So I want to show them something independent of our LMS. But in addition to that, one of the other major reasons I chose Flipgrid is that it will automatically close caption anything that the students will say in their videos. So to be ADA compliant and to make these tools accessible to everyone was very important to me, especially in an online class. So it allowed me to ensure that despite any potential disabilities with students, they would be able to participate in this. And the other thing that's just kind of fun about Flipgrid is it has the ability to, number one, limit how long a student will record a message. So if you want them to be succinct or you want them to elaborate, you can set that. And it also allows for some fun things like stickers and banners and things that students like to use on their recordings. So it's a tool that I think is pretty robust. But again, it's not something someone has to use. The idea is to engage students in whatever way you can.
Yeah. So you definitely brought out some differences there, because those little additions that students can do to the video itself might not necessarily be available in Canvas.
Right. Not to the best of my knowledge, it's not, at least not at this point.
Are there any other tools that you'd like to mention?
Yes, an additional alternative that I like to use to discussion board is a tool called Padlet. Padlet allows for students to post, it's sort of an online bulletin board where students can post, they almost look like little sticky notes that you're putting onto a digital bulletin board where they can share resources. This could be anything from documents to audio files to videos to web links. I like this for a couple reasons. Going back to your question about can't you collect resources through Canvas or any LMS? You certainly can. But there's a couple reasons I like this. Number one, it's very visually appealing. It's all on one bulletin board for them. So they're not sorting through threads inside of a Canvas discussion board or a traditional discussion board. But maybe the thing I like the most about it is after the discussion is completed, you are able to then download all of the responses into a PDF and then share it back out to students again. So for example, in my class, one of the things that they share are blogs, teacher-written blogs that they have located for different areas of education, elementary, middle, secondary. Mm-hmm. And all of these great blogs can then be compiled into a PDF that I can then email out or post on Canvas so they have a collective list to take with them after the class is over.
Wow, that's very good because, you know, students can't take Canvas with them.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And once the semester is over, they're closed out of that course.
Exactly. So that's a great benefit that you're mentioning there. Thanks for sharing that. Any other technology that you'd like to share?
Yes, then the last tool that I use, and this is really just to do two things. One, to stay in contact with my students throughout the week, and two, to kind of meet them where they are. They're all on their phones a large amount of their time. So I use a text messaging reminder tool called Remind. If anybody had heard in the past, it was called Remind 101, and it is now called Remind. Mm-hmm. It is a free tool that allows you to send out text messages that you can set on a schedule. So you can say, send this out on Saturday. You can say, send this out 2 weeks from now. And it's just meant to be a quick reminder of what's coming up, something you don't want them to forget. Hey, we need to bring our laptops to class this week, whatever that is, and they get it as a text message pop-up. They don't have to go into their email. It just allows them to see what's coming up in your class. I've found it to be very simple to use, very easy, and I've actually used it as a coach as well as a teacher, so it works for really any organization.
Wow. So, because I know in Canvas you can send out announcement, but depending on the notification choice that the students has in place, they may get it at the same time or not. Some students may have their notification set to get things at the end of the day, at the end of the week, but your text messages is in real time.
That's exactly right. And even though I think every announcement goes through and every announcement is read, it's not always the case, to your point, that some have it set up so they get them at various times, or maybe they don't get a notification of that. So in this way, I kind of make sure that that's in their face and they can see this important thing I need to let them know.
Wow. So just in general, with all of these technologies that you're using in your class, how are students responded to the use of all of these technologies?
I think I would say that they do feel that connection to me, that they feel like they get to know me a little bit. They can feel my personality through that. They know that I am reaching out to them on a regular basis, that I am kind of going the extra mile to make sure that I'm not just kind of anybody sitting behind a screen, that they know me and that they can come to me for any questions. Part of maybe the challenge with an online class is establishing a rapport with students and knowing that they feel comfortable to talk to you and to ask questions. And that all these little things get to that, where they can get to know me and that I want them and have a welcoming environment for them to come back to me on. I will typically ask students what's working for them and what's not, and the text message comes up a lot. In fact, my students will say, I like that you record your lectures and I can see what you're doing. Will you teach us this technology? So it's come up to the point where they've asked me to teach it to them, which we do in my class. So I do feel like it's gone a long way to bridging that gap that can sometimes exist between instructor and student to student as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great feedback, because a lot of time when one introduces new technology in a class, sometimes you really meet with a lot of challenges, and not that challenges are bad, but it's good when the advantages really outweigh
Right.
the disadvantages.
Yes, and that's the question I think you often have to ask is, does that happen? Do the challenges or do the outcomes outweigh the challenges? And in my case, it absolutely has. Of course, with anything, there is a bit of a learning curve, but it was worth it because it does deliver to them what I need for them to know in a way that I feel like is welcoming and pleasing to them.
Mm-hmm. Great. So are these tools mobile friendly?
They are, and that's particularly important in my class because I found that in my class, often students will have a couple devices up while they're learning a new technology or while they're going through materials. All of these are very mobile friendly. They work on tablets and phones, and Padlet and Remind and Flipgrid all have mobile apps to go along with them, so they can download those to whatever mobile device they're using. And Screencast-o-matic uploads to YouTube and a number of other tools that allow that to be used on a mobile device. So yes, all four of them are completely mobile friendly.
Okay. And how about the cost? Is there any cost associated with using these tools?
Yeah, great question, because in education, we don't always know what kind of financial resources we have available to us. Mm-hmm. All of them are free except for Screencast-o-matic, which it does have a free version of it. And I will tell you, I am maybe the cheapest person when it comes to buying software. I don't want to buy anything. But this one I actually do purchase. It's $18 a year, which is very reasonable. And it allows for, after that free version, which will allow you to test it out, but it has some really great editing tools that I use on a regular basis for this. Mm-hmm. So for example, if a small amount of my lecture has changed from one semester to another, I'm able to go in, take a piece out, re-record it, or even put a little sticky note that says, there's been a minor change in this, consult whatever. So it allows me to not redo my entire lecture, but edit it as I go. And that's one of the benefits to the $18 a year. So all the other three are completely free. In fact, Flipgrid has become completely free. Just recently, Microsoft bought Flipgrid and has made it completely free to everybody, which is
that's good news.
Very good news. There was a free version of that as well, which is what I used, but now the entire site is open to anybody to use.
Wow. So you said Microsoft has bought Flipgrid and it's now open. So how would one access Flipgrid via the Microsoft interface? I know you're going to share some resources, or you could perhaps share that, but just to be clear to our viewers who are watching.
Yes, I don't even know.
Is there any difference in the access?
No, everything is exactly the same. It's literally flipgrid.com, and you are able to get in and do everything you can. I'm not even sure you'd know it was, they might have something on their splash screen that announced that, but the entire program works exactly the same as it did before. It has unlocked anything that were professional features that you had to pay for, that they are open to everybody, which is fantastic for educators.
Wow, great. So I know you had mentioned a little bit earlier about the ADA compliant in terms of Flipgrid, because it has the caption and all of that. Is there anything else that you'd like to explain about these tools being ADA compliant?
Yes, the only other thing I would say is it is an important component when you are choosing a tool to look at things like that, particularly when you're talking about audio and video components. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that was very important to me was that when I recorded my lectures, that they did have the ability to be closed captioned. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the reasons I chose the tool that I did, because it has an output directly to YouTube. And if I think people know, but if not, know that YouTube automatically closed captions all of its videos, mm-hmm. and they're able to be edited, which I also really appreciated. So if you get a closed caption up there and it says things that you didn't actually say in real life, you're able to go in and edit that all for free. So it's a very easy way to be ADA compliant and still get your lectures online in a meaningful way. So that has been something that I've needed to look at as I've chosen these tools, and fortunately these tools have allowed for that compliance.
Wow. So what would you say, because you have mentioned a couple tools today that I think might be very interesting to our viewers, but some of them might be a little bit hesitant to start.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who is interested in using some of these tools, but they are, hesitant to start?
So first, I would say that's completely normal. Everybody feels a little bit hesitant about, will this work correctly? Will this really be a gain and a benefit for my students? I would say start with one. Pick one tool that you think would help you to better connect to your students. Remind is a very simple, easy one. They're all easy, but that's particularly simple. And try out one tool. Don't feel overwhelmed that you have to incorporate a tool into every single week of your modules. Don't feel like you have to try every tool that's out there. Pick one that you feel like would be beneficial and give it a try. Also, I would say if you are finding one area where you feel like something's lacking, for example, if you feel like, gosh, I really do discussion board a lot, that's an area I feel like I could introduce a new tool, pick that one thing. So look at your course too, see if there is an area where you feel like it needs to be beefed up a little bit, or that you do lose that connection with them a little bit, and pick one tool to try to help.
Yeah. I really like that, because we really want to start small and not just try to move a mountain.
Exactly.
And then become overwhelmed.
Yeah, and true for the students too. You don't want to throw out too much for them new either. You want to start small for them as well.
Yeah. And speaking of that, when you talk about the tool Remind, how often do you remind students about things? Do you use it for most of your assignment due dates?
Good question. I feel like for me, I reach out to my students 3 times a week. So I reach out to them when I first release the content. For me, that's always on Sundays. So I release it and I send out an email that says, hey, your new content is available. Here's an overview of what you're going to do. I then reach out to them on Thursdays, a few days later, to just say, hey, don't forget about this class. Here's what you're supposed to be working on. And then I send one text, and both of those are through announcements in Canvas. And then I send one text message to them over the weekend, reminding them the day before something is due. So I space it out a little bit, but I also want to make sure that they aren't losing contact with me. And that works for me. I would say in general, twice a week, I would say reach out to them.
Okay. So what you just noted is a combination of Canvas plus the Remind.
Yes.
So the Remind software was just used to remind them just before the assignment was due, but you use Canvas, the elements, to do the prior ones.
Exactly right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. So I know you have been kind enough. You are going to be sharing a couple resources with our viewers to help them to really get started with some of these technologies. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yes. So as I have developed my own course and used these tools, I found it helpful to create a few tutorials on how to use these. Some of these are used for my students because I want them to use them in their own classes. So I want them kind of behind the scenes. Mine's a little bit different because I'm teaching them both the tool itself and why it's helpful. But I've also shared it with colleagues who have wanted to implement some different tools into their classes, and I've found taking a video and demonstrating is helpful. So I'm happy to share those with the viewers as well, and hopefully it'll help you guys to get started. I'm also happy to share my contact information. If there's something that needs clarification, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Wow, thank you so much. Viewers, I'm going to check those things out, and I would encourage you to check it out if you think it will work for you. Great. And so in the final minute or so of this conversation, would you mind leaving our viewers with a challenge or an encouragement?
So I would say that one of the things that faculty almost across the board tell me is they don't feel comfortable putting their voice or their face in courses. They feel either self-conscious or a little bit uncomfortable. It's not necessarily in their comfort zone. I would encourage or challenge you to try to overcome that and do it anyway. It really does go a long way. If I could pick one thing that really helps to bridge that gap and encourage the connection between students and faculty, it would be putting yourself into that course. So I know it does push. I know people don't always like the sound of their own voice. I know that people get self-conscious, but I would really encourage you to take it in small pieces, but do it. Put yourself into that course, because the students will feel a stronger connection to you, and I promise you it will be worth it, both to them and to you.
Wow, Shannon, you have hit such an important point. That is so true. And I really like that challenge, because can you imagine, I had to go through that. I'm sure you had to go through that for many things, even for this summit. Can you imagine if we had decided, well, we don't really want to show ourselves,
right,
because of this or that, you wouldn't be able to be watching this summit now. So it's the same thing with you and your learners. If you are a bit hesitant of getting connecting with your students through video or anything that will challenge you to be present like this, I would encourage you to just start small, as Shannon said, and you will actually be able to reap benefits. So thank you so much, Shannon, for taking the time to share with us today. You have really given us some practical tips, and we're also going to check out your resources.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, truly.
Right, thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for taking the time to listen to this conversation. And I would encourage you, share this conversation with others. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of this summit. See you soon.